Hey there, I'm Shannon, and in today's video, we're going to talk about something that a lot of you guys ask me about all the time. You've seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail, so you know that today we're going to be talking about my hair loss / alopecia. My hair loss videos tend to go beyond the scope of my regular followers, so just a little background about me. My name's Shannon, I'm 23, I'm diagnosed with alopecia areata, which is an autoimmune disease that largely affects your hair. It just makes your hair fall out, amongst other things, but the main thing is the hair loss. I've had this condition my entire life. I think I was officially diagnosed when I was 2 years old, but I would assume I had it before then. I just didn't have enough hair to notice. But we're still dealing with the hair loss. That is probably going to be a lifelong thing for me. A lot of you guys want to know where it's at, how it's doing, and so I guess I'm just going to show you. So I'm going to switch over to a clip where you can see my hair loss. Right now, most of the hair loss that I have on my head is really centralized in the back. It's more so at like the nape of my neck is where I have my biggest spots. This seems to be, for me personally, a problem area that like I always have hair loss in. I'm constantly losing my hair at the nape of my neck, more so on the right side where it is right now. And I actually think, according to my doctors, a lot of alopecia patients lose their hair at the nape of their neck. While that is the biggest spot, I do have a bunch of like little, they call them satellite spots. They're just these little tiny circular spots around the back of my head that are harder to find, harder to see. But then the next most prevalent, more prevalent than the satellite spots, I would say, is my hairline in the front as well. So right now, I feel like my hair, if I was making an educated guess, my hairline should be about right here. So this entire thing, it looks like I just have a really high widow's peak, but that should be probably filled in. This side's a little better, but I'm starting, like literally as of this morning, I'm starting to lose this guy right here. This is not a part, that's actually a spot, so that's unfortunate. I've talked about my alopecia several times in the past, but this video is going to be sort of all-encompassing. I'm going to be talking about how it affects me, my treatments, just kind of ranting, getting it out of my system, because I haven't talked about this in a long time, and it is starting to come back, and it really does weigh down on you a little bit. For me personally, my autoimmune disease is really heavily affected by stress, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who is in agreement in saying that this was one of the most stressful years of my life. I've kind of hinted at it on social media, but I'm going through a lot of personal stuff, including a breakup. I'm not doing the best mentally. I'm trying to hold it together, but it's a subconscious thing, and sure enough, it's really coming out in my body. My body is really reflecting the stress that I'm under in terms of my hair and my skin. You know, it's a given that my hair is going to fall out when I'm under stress. For some people with alopecia, literally the only reason their hair falls out is because of stress. That's not the case with me, but it's definitely an exacerbator. I hate that word, but it is. It's an exacerbator for sure. You know, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, so this is just in my experience, so take what I say with a grain of salt. But in my experience, a lot of people with autoimmune disorders have multiple autoimmune disorders. My body just attacks itself, and it comes out in hair loss, and I also have some pretty bad psoriasis and eczema that's been really flaring up lately. I've been doing pretty good until the last like 2 or 3 months, which is really when the stress set in, and I've been having breakouts in terms of my eczema / psoriasis and my hair loss like no other. I think everyone can kind of relate to this a little bit because, like, you know, a lot of people, they get stressed and they break out, and granted, I also break out, but I break out in like acne, I break out in psoriasis, I break out in hair loss. It's the whole deal, okay, guys? I also feel like my hair loss specifically is a little bit cyclical, and I've told my doctors this. I don't know if there's any sort of like factual basis for this at all, but I do feel like my hair loss is sort of in like a 4-year cycle. I feel like for 2 years it will do really fantastic, and then for 2 years it will decline. So it'll be like bad, good 2 years later, bad 2 years later. It's very much one of these, you know what I'm saying? For those of you who haven't seen my other videos, I made one specific video talking about like the medication part of alopecia specifically. Didn't really get a lot of views, so I guess I'll kind of like briefly touch on it. Once a month, I do get steroid injections. Not a gun, it's a needle, it's a syringe. I get it injected into everywhere that I have a bald spot or hair loss. I get a big old needle injected over and over into wherever I need my hair to regrow. It really is like a lot of work to keep your hair when you have alopecia. Like, you are fighting your whole immune system, the whole entire system that keeps you healthy. You have to like retrain with medication, and that just causes more problems. It's really stupid, and it's all for societal beauty standards. So that's real dumb. Maybe one day I'll just be bald. I don't know. That's a tangent. I digress. The other medications that I do take, which I've talked about in other videos, but I'll go over really quickly again, are 2 oral medications. I take a medication called Xeljanz, which is an immunosuppressant. I did somewhat of a poor job explaining it earlier, but essentially what causes my hair loss is my immune system. My immune system thinks that my dead cells, such as my hair, lips, and nails, etc., are like foreign invaders, such as a virus trying to attack me, and so it attacks back, and that's why I lose my hair. I also have divots in my nails, which are really hard to see. It's not even worth trying to show you. You won't see unless you're looking in person, like real close under. But I do have divots in my nails, and I also do have divots in my lips as well. Xeljanz, that immunosuppressant, essentially targets the part of my immune system that is telling my body to attack itself and suppresses it. I'm also on another medication called minoxidil. It's a pill, but many of you guys have probably heard of minoxidil because that's what a lot of men use in a foam or liquid form on their head to prevent male pattern baldness. I have it in the foam version. I almost rarely use it because I'm literally like putting it right into my bloodstream in pill form, under a doctor's supervision, of course. But occasionally, if I have a spot like this one, for example, that's real bugging me, just put some of that on there and rub her in. You know what I'm saying? Switching gears a little bit from, actually a lot of it, from the medical side more so to the psychological, emotional side of how this affects me. It does, to put it bluntly. You know, as an adult, I more so have not completely, but I've almost completely come to terms with the fact that this is who I am. This is something I'm probably going to have to deal with for my entire life, and it's going to be an expensive and painful battle to keep my hair. And in saying that it has gotten easier, obviously there were some pretty dark times in my childhood especially. It's pretty hard to be a young girl who is balding when like society kind of reserves that kind of thing to be acceptable for older men. There are many, many, many instances I can think of in my growing up, especially as a tween and a teen, where I was pretty heavily bullied for my hair loss. I think, honestly, as an adult reflecting back, that comes from a place of insecurity on the bully's part, and that's something that I don't let affect me anymore, despite the fact that it still does happen even in my adult life. For the most part, I do have to say, for anyone who's suffering with something like this, when you become an adult, it gets a lot easier. Kids are fucking mean. You know what I mean? Kids and teenagers are mean motherfuckers, and adults are a little bit, albeit a little bit, more understanding of differences amongst people. Right now, luckily, I am at a point in my life where I'm pretty much only surrounded by people who completely support me and don't even look at me any different for the fact that my hair falls out, but that's not always been the case, and there are going to be people who want to make you feel like shit for the things that are out of your control. In the case of that, my only advice is fuck those people. They're miserable, and you can just let them be miserable because they're gonna do it regardless, you know? This is something that's gonna be a lifelong struggle for me, probably, and there's, you know, I've learned through this YouTube channel mainly, there's a lot of other people out there who are struggling with the same thing or similar thing. If you do take away anything from this video, and I know it was sort of like a ramble, rant, informative piece of garbage, I hope it's that, you know, you're not alone. Lots of people are probably going through the same thing that you're going through, you just don't realize it. and that it does get better. It gets easier every single day. And you know what? I've thought about it in recent weeks, months, years. Maybe one day I'll just stop taking this medication. Honestly, it does nothing but bad things for me besides keep my hair. And I think there's gonna come a day in my life where I can be so comfortable with myself that I'm just gonna let it go. We're not there yet, but maybe one day. I appreciate you guys listening to my ramble rant. I appreciate you guys hanging out, giving thumbs up, turning my notifications on. You guys are the real OGs. If there's any questions about my hair loss or alopecia or autoimmune disorders or anything that I talked about in this video, please leave them in the comments down below. I really like talking about this kind of thing and informing people about alopecia because, like I said, it's something I'm gonna have my whole life. So please feel free to ask questions. I'll be answering the comments as much as I can. Thank you so much to all of my patrons, which I will now be putting on the screen. If you weren't aware, I do have a Patreon. This is gonna be my second video now where I'm featuring my patrons at the end. Every single video that I make from here on out, I'm gonna be featuring all of my patrons on an end slate that I made especially for them. I wanna give a huge thank you to every single person who supports me on Patreon. Seriously, you guys are going to change my life. I really appreciate it. Every single pledge helps me more than you know. You guys are literally my life. I love messaging you on there. I love talking to my patrons so much. So if that's something you're interested in, the link will be in the description. And before I go, I do want to give an extra special shout out to some of my patrons who are my tier 2 and 3 supporters. And those extra special people are Emerson, Jackson, Damien, Zemzo, Liz, Cynthia, Mikey, and Ashlyn. Thank you guys so much for everything you do to support me. I literally could not do this without you. You are my favorites on this planet. I love you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.